I'm disqualified from getting my entire 15% deduction?
This is a very astute question. Somebody who's good in the math, very quick to figure out. If you think about this, and you have a 1231 asset, which you sell in 2019, the period doesn't start till December 31st. So the capital gain period, you have 180 days starting from December 31st of 2019. The questioner is saying, in order to qualify for the 10% and 5% step-ups, the full 15% requires you to be invested for 7 years by the time you get to December 31st, 2026. The only way you can be invested for 7 years by December 31st, 2026 is to have made your investment on December 31st, no later than December 31st, 2019. So, your sale of trade or business property can be made no earlier than December 31st, 2019. And to qualify for the 7-year 15% hike can be made no later than December 31st, 2019. Those two dates have in common December 31st, 2019. So
what are you doing New Year's Eve?
None of us are going to get to go on Christmas vacation on December 31st, 2019, because these will all come together, and everybody in the world who has the sale of trade or business property and wants to get the maximum benefit will have to do it on that day. One would hope that, I'm sure that, I know I will, I'm sure that lots of people will write to Treasury and say, you realize what you've done here, right? And we'll see what happens.
It's the curse of the Full Employment Act for attorneys and CPAs.
This is a question about a installment sale. Is there any restrictions or limitations on an investor or another party purchasing an asset on an installment basis?
When you refer to purchasing an asset, you mean to then be used in the Opportunity Fund business?
Yeah, the fund, through a special purpose entity, a lower purpose entity, is going to purchase land for development on an installment basis.
Nobody's quite sure about what the impact of land is. But in general, the rule is that projects which you buy, you have to, one of the requirements is that a subsidiary entity must purchase, and purchase has a very technical term in the Internal Revenue Code, and the definition is more or less that you must buy from someone who you are no more than 20% related to. So if you were an investor in the fund who owned 25% of the fund, and the fund in turn was, say, a 99% partner of this business, and then the business bought property from you, 99 times 25 would be more than 20, you'd have a problem. If, on the other hand, you own a 15% interest in the fund, or no interest in the fund, you wouldn't have an issue.
No interest in the fund. We just want to sell the land to the investor on an installment basis.
There shouldn't be any issue about selling on an installment basis. I don't know, anybody?
I don't see
I guess one question is when you're doing your test to see if you qualify as an Opportunity Zone fund, between 70 and 90% of your tangible property has to be a good asset. So you have to know, how do you quantify, like how much is in the numerator and how much is in the denominator.
Yeah.
And so there you have a choice in how you value your property, and one of it is, one option is to use your unadjusted cost of the property. So,
And your cost would include the purchase contract, so it would be the full amount that you were paying.
Right.
yeah.
Even though you haven't paid it yet.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
We've extended this about 10 minutes because of the popularity and people just coming in. So 10 minutes is going to eat into the networking break, if that's okay with you guys. Okay,
Fine,
thanks.
Yeah, we don't need to.
Going back to the 180-day question, I don't know if I missed this when you were talking about the 1231 gains and the fact that you don't know until December 31st. Does that same rule apply for pass-through entities, like a partnership?
We had this discussion over breakfast this morning. Those of you who are familiar with the first round of regulations, in the first round of regulations, it said that a partnership which sells an asset has a choice of three dates and people. The partnership, having sold assets, can reinvest in an Opportunity Zone fund as a partnership on that date. The partners of the partnership can invest their shares on that date, or the partnerships can invest their shares on December 31st, provided everybody gives notice to whoever they are. If you think about it, your typical partnership is not an investment partnership. It's probably not holding stock and bonds and so on. It's probably holding, say, a real estate assets or a business or something like that. And as a result, it will probably have trade or business property that it's selling. And therefore, the rule in the first round of regulations, which told you that the partnership could invest starting from the date of sale, is probably, we don't know for sure, is probably overridden by this new rule that says if you sell trade or business property, you don't know till December 31st. On top of everything else, partnerships don't, strictly speaking, have 1231 property. They put it on the K1 of the partners, and then the partners figure out at the end of the year, well, I had a gain from this partnership, and I had a loss from this thing that I did, and it all adds up to whatever it adds up to. So the notion that a partnership could decide earlier in the year, I mean, if a partnership is a single asset partnership and it sells the asset, it knows pretty well whether it has a gain or a loss. So it theoretically is a bit of a, I don't know if I'd call it a loophole, but another way to look at things, that the partnership would theoretically know for sure the largest possible number at the earliest possible date. And you could imagine people saying, hey IRS, I am relying on your regulations. Your regulations said that I could sell on the date of the sale by the partnership, that I could now buy, and that's what I'm going to do. But we all think, I think, although everybody can weigh in, I think we all think that the second rule will trump the first rule and that you won't know until December 31st.
Right.
Question regarding cash out, refinance, and distribution. I just want to make sure I got it right. For example, if I buy a property all cash for $1 million and put another $1 million for development, so now I invested $2 million. And I'll wait for 2 years, assuming the property appreciates for $3 million, for example, and I will take a loan at 70%, that will work out to $2 million. Can I take that distribution without any tax consequences after 2 years?
So you're putting in 1 million, and then where's the second million coming from?
1 million for the real property purchase, another $1 million for the development. Okay. So total investment is 2 million, all cash, no debt to begin.
2 million of equity that came into the fund?
Yeah.
Okay.
And after 2 years, I will wait for 2 years, assuming the property appreciates to $3 million. And now I put a 70% loan on it, which works out to be $2.1 million, okay?
Yeah, so as long as the debt is allocated in a reasonable way to the partners, they should be, like if it's allocated pro rata to the partners, they should be able to pull out that debt financing.
Tax-free.
Yes.
So 2 million
and after 2 years, and
Yeah.
assuming it's not locked in, like there's no plan on day one, like this is what you're gonna get on day 2 years plus 1 day.
So which means 2 million going in, wait for 2 years, 2 million take out, no tax.
Yes, as long as the debt, you have to make sure the debt is allocated. Like I'm not writing a legal opinion here that you can rely on.
Kate has blanks, she just signs them against.
Yeah. I have an automatic signature block. What matters is that you wait at least 2 years. It's not locked in. There's some entrepreneurial risk that you'll be able to get that debt financing and pull the cash out. And then the cash that comes out to an investor can't exceed the amount of debt that's allocated to that investor.
So I cannot exceed the original investment.
Yeah, and there, like guarantees and things might screw up how debt is allocated. So if the investors aren't allocated any debt under 752, then they cannot pull cash out until they start recognizing the gain.
We could do like the arithmetic here. You put $2 million in, but you get a zero basis under the Opportunity Zone rules. So any distribution would be in excess of basis, would be taxable. When you borrow the $2 million, the investors, somebody now gets $2 million of basis. And remember, this is with a partnership or an LLC taxes a partnership. It's not with a corporation. It's going to be a pass-through entity. So the $2 million, which is the point this isn't good for. And so with the partnership, you have now a $2 million basis. And the particular strong point Kate's making here is if your managing member guarantees the debt, then the $2 million of basis is not going to go to your investors, it'll go to your manager. So that will not work. If nobody guarantees the debt, if it's a non-recourse debt and your investors are the 99% partners, then you're fine. Then you can pass out 99%. And their basis will go from 0 up to $2 million, 99% of $2 million, and you have plenty of room to make a distribution.
So even otherwise, in case if IRS comes back, what worse can happen? Like I'll pay under 2 million in capital gains or ordinary income tax, or completely that QOZ qualification is nullified. I mean, in a worst case scenario, what worse could happen if it is not
Go to
allowed?
jail.
The character of the gain will carry over. So when you finally have to pay that deferred gain, is that what you're asking about, the deferred gain? You'll pay based on what the character of that original gain was, either long-term or short-term.
Thank you.
I don't know where we are in time, but maybe we can do one more question.
He was in line before.
Oh,
So,
maybe,
yeah,
yep. We might be.
Three more people.
Okay, yep. Go ahead.
Yes, hi. My question revolves more around dividend distribution. I have a fund, we buy properties, and a lot of times we offer a dividend to investors. So in the opportunity zone, how would that affect investors? Because it's an interest-only dividend. It's not, any of their principal rate of return, but we just generate a lot of money from the properties we buy and fix up.
So it's like the fund owns an apartment building, so it's collecting rent, and that's
Yes.
cash, and so it distributes that cash out.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so there, and this brings up a good point. You have this apartment building, it's collecting rent, that's taxable income.
Okay.
That was true before these rules, that's still true.
Okay.
Like all your operating income is still gonna be taxable, there's no special tax treatment for that. So let's say there's $1 million of rental income that you recognize, so you have $1 million of cash. That would increase the basis the partners have in their partnership interests, because we're assuming we have a partnership. So then they could pull that $1 million out without recognizing any of the historic gain that they've been deferring.
Okay, so it'd be okay to pay like a quarterly dividend to investors? Because what I've been seeing lately with a lot of opportunity zones being advertised is that people invest and then, they wait 5 or 7 years to get money. Whereas the particular properties that we invest in is that, we generate cash flow within, 1 to 3 months. And so...
The answer is unfortunately maybe.
Maybe.
Like if you have a lot of depreciation, so you don't have any net taxable income, you can't pull the cash out without triggering your old gain.
Okay, no, what I'm saying is like in reference to monthly rents. So say I generate $100,000 a month in rents, and I want to give my investors, who invest in Opportunity Zone, a dividend every quarter. Is that allowable, or does that make it complicated, or what's the...
It might trigger some of their historic gains. So if they invested in an Opportunity Zone fund, they have some old gain that they recognize and they want to defer that and not recognize it right away. And if they're getting a regular cash distribution out, they might be triggering some of that old gain that they were hoping to defer. But it depends on how it's done and what the other facts are.
So who would be best to consult on that? Would it be like an Opportunity Zone attorney or Opportunity Zone accountant, or both?
You need a whole team.
Yeah, you need a land use lawyer, you need everybody, so.
Yeah, sorry to cut, we got to cut short, we got the red light, so if there's any other questions, I'm sure all the panelists will be in the back, and feel free to ask away. All right, thank you.
Thank you all for being here.